Welcome to the Circle of Trust podcast with your host, law firm CMO Keith Dyer. Brought to you by LexGrow, the leader in law firm marketing strategy, training, and implementation. If you're ready to grow your law firm with predictable case flow and revenue, you're in the right place.
Hello and welcome to the Circle of Trust podcast. I'm excited today to have as our guest Mr. Paul Kinne. Paul is a partner, and I'm going to ask you, Paul, again, if I'm saying these names correctly, so forgive me if I don't. But Paul's a partner of a law firm out of Madison, Wisconsin called Gingras, Thomsen Wachs.
It's Gingras, Thomsen Wachs.
Okay, I was close. Gingras, Thomsen Wachs. Great. And it looked like you did quite a few things. I saw that you did personal injury, but you also did employment law. Is there a specific focus at this point of what you're working on?
Sure. Our firm does overall a majority of personal injury type cases and state law tort. And I do some of that. But I do primarily employment law and civil rights cases, all on the plaintiff side.
Okay, very cool. How did you, are you from the Madison, Wisconsin area? I know that's where the firm is.
Yeah, I am. I've grown up my entire life here in Dane County. And so my entire professional career has been spent in Madison, Wisconsin.
I've got some familiarity with Madison. I used to live in Minneapolis, and we went there a couple of times. It's not too far away from there. They called it Madtown. I remember it was the nickname. Is that right?
Yeah, it lives up to its reputation.
Yeah, and you got a great football tradition and program there. I remember Barry Alvarez and all those great teams. He was sort of an underrated coach. You guys were always in the top 25, or University of Wisconsin was, and always had great running backs, I felt like.
Yeah.
Ron
Dane
from there. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Ron Dane, I think, was a player.
Yeah, Ron Dane. He was he's a local hero, number retired. Yeah, he was great. The football team been struggling a little lately, but they have a lot of glory behind them.
Yeah, they do. A lot of, I mean, they're just a perennial, Big Ten team. You think of like the large offensive lines and the corn-fed guys, the jerks.
That's right.
Yeah, I used to work with a guy from Wisconsin too, and he was a huge deer hunter, big deer hunter. I guess that's a big thing in Wisconsin as well.
Also very popular. If you ever look at the crowd at a Green Bay Packers game, later in the year, you'd wonder if their colors were green and gold or blaze orange.
Yeah, because they all have the running gear.
That's right.
Everything. That's great. So have you been with this firm for a long time?
Yeah, I started off with an earlier incarnation back in 1993 when it was Gingras Law Office. And I've been here through multiple incarnations to the point where we are now. We started off with one office in Madison, and now Gingras, Thomsen Wachs has an office in Madison, in Milwaukee, and in Eau Claire.
Okay, so you're a pretty good sized firm at this point.
Yeah.
How many lawyers do you have working there? We
have 9 lawyers and probably about 30 employees.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's healthy growth too over a long period of time. I like it. So what is your role there? Is primarily is the practice of law? Do you have any not experience, but any administrative responsibilities or responsibilities in something like some of the growth of the firm?
I would say generally, yes. The partners here really take a team approach to administration. Bob Gingras is the senior partner, but all of us participate in decisions about personnel, about growth, both geographically and practice area, and also in marketing.
Cool. I forgot that I have another friend that went to school there who's a personal injury lawyer in Houston, Texas. He actually owns he's the largest Hispanic-owned law firm in Texas, and he went to the University of Wisconsin. His name's James Amaro.
Okay.
I don't know if that rings a bell, but he's a terrific attorney and really a go-getter, good guy, very smart guy. Anyway, I just thought of that. I hadn't thought of it. So tell me a little bit, like, how are you guys, how have you grown the firm in the past? And what have been some of your challenges and or successes that you've
Sure.
seen?
Uh, I've been doing this long enough that there used to be huge arguments over who got the first full page in the yellow pages. Uh,
I've
so,
been, I remember those days as well.
yeah. So we have always, we've tried to be a firm that markets ourselves as small enough to still get personal attention to so plaintiffs know that they are people and they're going to be treated like people, not like numbers or essentially a file that exists at some big impersonal huge law firm.
Yeah, like they're not being processed through like it's a factory.
Exactly, yeah. And we pride ourselves on being willing to go to trial. We are not a firm that says, "Hey, look, well, if we can't settle your case, then you'll have to go somewhere else." We are very adamant at upfront in every case we take that if it demands going all the way to the end to get justice, we're willing to do that, and we have the credentials to prove that. Most of our cases have always come in through direct referrals from other attorneys. We have in the past marketed on television and radio. And speaking of a challenge, all the partners, and me in particular, have struggled to try to figure out if what the cost benefit analysis is that you should apply to that. You feel like you're left out if you're not on there because you see the ads from all the other firms and you think, God, nobody's hearing about us.
Yeah, that I've heard that a lot. And, I think the way, just to give you some unsolicited feedback, I don't know if I would call it advice, that's not uncommon. And what you've got to kind of do is say, okay, is TV where we need to be right now? Maybe that's where we need to be later on. That's probably the last place that I would grow to. It doesn't mean that it's not extremely effective. It is, but you got to sort of understand when the right time to do it is, if that makes sense. Like it may not be the right time in the firm's growth because it's an expensive endeavor.
Exactly.
However, when people figure it out, it can be very effective. So it's tough. It's all about, just like anything, is competitive. I liked what you said a minute ago, and I've always thought about this. You're the kind of law firm that I typically like working with. My best friend is a personal injury lawyer, and when you talk, it reminds me of him and the way his firm operates. And I wish it was easier to explain to consumers in some way that they all get it. Like when you're seriously injured, especially, or even if you're just injured in general, you don't want to be in a factory situation. You want to be with attorneys that are going to get you the best possible solution they can. And that's not going to happen by folks that are just pressing a file through a system just to get a minimal settlement and as little time as possible on desk.
Absolutely. I mean, the insurance companies figure out which attorneys are going to do that. And a lot of times there is compensation, and because the system can only give you money, that means also justice,
Right.
That clients didn't get because of that approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if I was ever injured, I feel at least educated enough to know now, like how to figure that out. But I kind of worry about the rest of the consumer base because I don't think they see so many ads. And I mean, this may sound strange coming from an ad guy, but I think there's ways that firms can compete without being those kinds of firms where you're just a number being pressed through. So, one way to do that is just to very, very much focus on the message that you just talked about. When you come to a firm like yours, we're going to treat the case as if it's extremely important because it is. And I just wish there was a better way to kind of let people know that. And I think the way to do it really is to try to include it in their marketing message as much as they can. And on top of that, to be the local law firm. I think people really like to know that their firm is in their city or near their city, and they can reach out and touch you or talk to you. I think that's important to them. So those are a couple of things that I always sort of like focus on with my clients, as well as kind of getting into community events, because then they start to see you as one of them. And then that's what they want. They want their guy or gal that's going to go in, that's their local person that's going to fight for them. So those are just some of the ways I take what you just said and try to integrate it into the marketing.
Right.
But yeah, so I get what your frustration though is from what I'm hearing is you may have sunk money into things in the past like TV or whatever, and it'd be very expensive, and you're like, why am I not getting the ROI that I'm expecting off of that? Is that right?
That's exactly right. And, to some extent, maybe we are, but how you can tell what you're getting from that is very difficult to measure, at least from my perspective with the people we worked with in the past.
It is difficult to measure. We do set up what we call attribution models for firms where they can actually feed in general where cases are coming from. But I would say that, you still have to count that as probably 75% accurate, which is better than 0% if you don't have any insight at all. However, you've got to kind of look at the whole picture and kind of view it in a way that the point I'm making is sometimes the sum of the parts most of the time, are not equal to the whole. So when you're doing a lot of different marketing, it can really create a sort of maximizing effect that's different if you were just doing one-off things. So anyway, the bottom line is you've got to try to measure if you can. And the only way often to do that is through digital marketing. You can do it and through a lot easier. You can trace where the phone number came from and et cetera. The problem is that someone could drive every day to work and see your billboard every single day, and then they start to know your firm. But then they decide when they get injured, they don't ever call you for years. But when they get injured, they remember your firm and they don't know the number. So what do? They go to Google to find it.
Right.
So Google still gets the credit for this. So the point I'm making is it's got to be all working together, really, is the main point. And that's the key. But, you guys, it sounds like you've got a long-standing firm there in the community, and you probably get lots of referrals, which are great. The goal for the marketing should be that you get even more cases, to get more people happy, to get more referrals, right?
Exactly.
That's really the formula. And that's what we preach anyway at LexGrow. But so what are some things that have worked for you that you can think of in the past that you're like, okay, that was a successful thing? Can you think of anything off the top of your head, or maybe some campaign or a medium like radio, or what has worked for you guys? What are you currently doing? Maybe is a good way to ask that.
Okay. Right now, we mainly do, we use social media, mostly Facebook. I'd like to figure out how to better use LinkedIn, but we use chiefly Facebook for kind of our social media marketing. I'm old enough where Facebook is still what I consider social media, but I think we also have Instagram account. We try to do, search engine optimization. That also is something that I find difficult to figure out how to gauge how much and how many resources you should put into that to maintain top of the line, be on the first page. We do go out of our way to try to do seminars and public speaking. We post on Facebook when we do something socially noteworthy. We do billboards. We use billboards. I honestly am not sure how effective they are, because the only people who tell me they see them are people who already know me, who I would hope have called me anyway. But we do those. But really, honestly, the best and most reliable approach we've taken for years and years and years is treating other lawyers with respect, demonstrating our competence and appropriate aggressiveness. And so we get a lot of referrals from attorneys who don't practice in our area, and they send us their cases.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. I love that. I think the billboards are effective. You just got to have enough of them up, and they've got to stay up long enough to where the brand is known in the community. And so it's just like it's a multiplying effect, but it's almost impossible, as you say, to like see the direct impact of it. I will say that when we put up billboards, oftentimes we do see a jump in cases. Sometimes that's a little delayed, but it works better when it's all working together. Like I said, that's kind of the interesting part of it.
Right.
But yeah, developing that referral base is the best thing you can do with other law firms, and then to make sure that you're giving the clients that you serve a really, the best possible outcome that you can. You can't be perfect, but then they go out and they act like little marketers for you and send referrals in as well. And so that's what really brings down your cost per acquisition, because those cases that they send in don't cost you anything. At least you can't directly see it. So, you spend money on the front end to get more clients, to get more referrals, to lower your cost per acquisition, because at the end of the day, you're averaging all those together, right?
Right. If I can ask you a question, one of the things that we have thought about in the past, but we keep thinking about it, but we haven't done it yet, is to send out maybe a quarterly newsletter, either by email or by regular mail, or both, to former clients, to just kind of let them, current and former clients, to kind of let them generally know what's going on at the firm. Is that something that you've heard of? And do you think that is effective, cost effective, and good at bringing in cases?
I would say it should be one of the things that you definitely are doing, especially the email one, because it doesn't cost you anything to have them automated and to send them out to the same people, and it keeps your name in front of them all the time, with literally automation and the click of a few buttons to get things set up. So definitely the email. I would even suggest that the mail newsletter is also terrific. You may work with some other kinds of businesses that would give you referrals back, and you could give them some space on that, on both the email newsletter and the paper newsletter, to show that you're reciprocating, and they can give you referrals back. I mean, maybe it's in businesses that are related to the execution of a personal injury case.
Sure.
So those are some of the ideas I would suggest.
Okay.
To answer your question directly, yes, they are beneficial. They're usually not expensive compared to other marketing, and it's just another way to keep you out there in front of everybody.
Right.
So I think it is a terrific practice to do. Yes.
Another area where struggled might be too strong a word, but the employment discrimination and civil rights cases are very important cases. And I love working on them, and I'm proud of the work I've done for my clients. But we would like to get more of a ratio. We would like to improve our ratio of potential client contacts. So there's more personal injury, auto type cases relative to those kinds of cases, for the simple fact that the personal injury cases tend to be less resource intensive to get a good result. Is there any magic formula?
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying you want to get more employment cases that refer back personal injury cases?
When in the past, sometimes when we have engaged in kind of an advertising campaign, for lack of a better word, we tend to see more calls come in, but they tend to disproportionately be employment discrimination and civil rights cases, not the personal injury auto type cases. So instead of having the ratio we currently have between calls on personal injury, employment, and civil rights, we would like to increase the percentage of personal injury auto cases, while still, of course, getting a healthy number of calls in the civil rights and employment cases.
Yeah, so the only way you can't really, in the traditional media, meaning TV, radio, billboards, all you can do is refine your messaging the best that you can to say that you're a personal injury firm. On the pay-per-click side, if you're doing Google pay-per-click, you can do your best to eliminate keywords that people might search for the employment cases or civil rights cases. But then again, too, if you like them and you like them coming in, I don't know how much you want to eliminate them. So it's tricky. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
We face the same thing here. As a matter of fact, that issue you're talking about with a couple of my firms is one of their biggest issues with, well, sort of the efficiency of the intake department. Like how much of that can they devote to those kinds of calls? But yeah, that's a hard one. I would have to think more about that and maybe look at your specific situation a little closer.
Yeah, because another reason I think that we have been successful over the years is that we do personal injury, but we also do civil rights cases and employment cases, which makes us different and unique, and it puts us, it gives us a niche to occupy in people's minds. It's really important, but from a returns point of view, the auto personal injury type cases, well, they're just worth more from an operating expense point of view.
Yeah,
So,
they're more profitable.
yeah, they are. It would be great if we could come up with a way to get more of those cases relative to the number of civil rights and employment cases we get.
Yeah, I can see that. That's something I would have to think more about. I don't know if we've really come up with a solution for it. We just really focus our message on especially the broader media. We focus our message on injuries and that kind of thing. But that's an interesting predicament. At least in your firm, you can satisfy both. You've got the employment and the civil rights stuff. You've got that practice area that you work through, so that's good for you. Do you have any like people that you follow or programs that you've taken that you think have been good for you, like an author or a book that you've read about growing law firms that you found to be helpful or that you can think of?
I really haven't ever done that, and I'd be interested in getting a referral about that. I've just kind of always approached it from I don't know, common sense might be too strong a word, but
no, I think common sense is what people.
yeah.
But they can get a little lost on too much advice. You can get too much advice, and it gets confusing. Yeah.
But no, I've never actually read a book or looked into a program that was dedicated specifically to that idea. So if you've got some ideas, that'd be great to read something like that. I think I'd really benefit from it.
Sure. I'll share some with you when we get off here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll share some for sure. I think some of the really good ones are the ones that are, I would find a couple maybe that are broad, like it's not just about the marketing, it's about growing the entire firm. But then I would be very careful about making sure if you get people to help you implement anything that they're experts at implementing specific things, if that makes sense. So you want the strategy, but then you also want people who are really good at implementing different things. Like in marketing, for example, you want people that are experts at legal marketing. They know the field. It's not a general marketer. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And some of we've had good experiences and bad experiences working with marketing firms, and
of course,
the bad experiences tend to be with, yeah. The poorer ones tend to be with firms that are more general and don't understand the specific details of what it's like to market for someone in our part of the market.
Yeah, it's law firm marketing, personal injury law firm marketing in particular is just probably the most competitive marketing that you can think of. It really
feels
is.
Like it.
It's very, very difficult. However, if you understand the basics and you understand where they begin and where they're supposed to go. In other words, you know the right budget to build with the right percentages and you follow it. There's still specifics to your firm, but you follow this formula. Your own formula will start to come together as well. And you'll start to see this is how we do this. Maybe a little bit different than other firms, but generally they do the same sort of things. So what do you feel like? Is there anything right now in particular that you guys are missing in your marketing, or do you feel comfortable with where it is, or do you maybe you like where it is, but it could get better? Things can always get better, it seems like. But How do you feel about where you are currently?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things we struggle with is that we get a lot of calls, and triaging those calls is becoming a bigger and bigger. It's consuming more and more of our resources when 19 out of 20 of those don't even deserve a follow-up.
Do you mean marketing vendors calling you?
No, I'm talking about, what do we want our marketing to do? We want our marketing to get potential clients to call us.
More cases.
Yeah, but we're getting, 19 out of 20 calls we get, and this is a function of us doing a lot of civil rights work more than anything else. We get 19 out of 20 calls isn't worth even a follow-up on, because it's frivolous. So there's a way to hone the advertising to get a higher proportion of claims that are worth following up on, or if there's a way to deal with, while maintaining our nature as a law firm of humans and not robots, to more quickly and efficiently deal with the intake calls. That's a little bit of a challenge, I think, that we're facing right now.
Do you mean that your intake department gets overwhelmed with the calls for civil rights and employment, and then it prevents you from maybe taking on or answering all of the personal injury calls, or you feel like they're blocking them or clogging it up? Is that kind of what?
Yeah, I'd say clogging it up. I mean, we try to get back to everybody with a meaningful answer within 24 hours, and because there are good cases mixed in there, and it's just getting to be harder and harder to do.
This may sound like a silly question, but do you have it broken up now where different intake people are handling different types of cases? So like if you had one person that only did the one or however many is needed, do either one of those practice areas, like there's two people for personal injury and two people for the other, like, so you got somebody answering the calls, and after a couple of questions they're like, you need to go to Denise, she's our personal injury intake person, or you need to go to John, he's our civil rights and employment person. Do you have that set up that way now?
No, we don't. We have it set up where we've got essentially a hierarchy of people that take the calls, and if person number one is on the line, then person number two takes the call. If they're both on the line, person number three takes the call.
So you might just consider altering that hierarchy. I think the hierarchy is great. You've got to have backup so calls don't get dropped.
Sure.
But I mean, in the firms that I've worked with, especially in personal injury, we set up what we consider it a sales function. And we actually try to find people that are, and when I say sales, I don't mean like cheesy car lot salespeople. I'm talking about people that a lot of times they come from law enforcement, or they understand accident reports and things of that nature, so they can really ask the right questions. And then we also make sure that whoever we hire is very empathetic and sympathetic to the people and what their issues are, because I mean, really, for both of those practice areas, you've got to be that way.
Absolutely.
Maybe in any practice area, you got to be that way. But when someone's injured, they've got a lot of things going on in their mind. So we have it set up to where there's a hierarchy. There are specific people that take those kinds of calls. So like a workers' comp call for this particular firm I'm talking about might be different than a personal injury. And then we incentivize them for getting cases signed, and then also signing cases in after hours, because that's a whole other deal. But it works for us. So
right.
That would be some suggestions I would give to you on that. So let's wrap it up this way. What does the future look like for Paul, and what would you like to see happen with the firm, like in its growth?
I'd like to see us grow steadily over, I'll just say the next 10 years. I'm 57. I'd love to see us continue to grow, maybe not expand more office wise, but to add lawyers and staff at each location.
Right.
And I think we'd be better positioned if we had a better ratio of personal injury to employment to civil rights. But I'm so proud of what we do. I always want the employment cases and the civil rights cases to be a prominent part of what we do, and to bring up some good associate lawyers who can then step into leadership roles. I guess I'd like to, 10 years from now, know that the firm is in good hands, both from a character point of view and a financial point of view, for when I start to step down, because I want this firm to continue to succeed and continue to help the little guy going into the future when I'm not here.
Yeah, no, I love that. It sounds like they're lucky to have you, man. I mean, there's
Well, thank you.
not many people that think like that.
Yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed our time together, Paul. If you'd like, was there anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed it, and we've learned. I love the questions that you ask, and they were maybe a little different than some of the ones I've heard in a while. So thank you for your input. I appreciate your time.
You bet.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Circle of Trust powered by LexGrow. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow us and leave a review. Want to grow your law firm faster? Book a free strategy call at lexgrow.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep innovating. Let's grow with LexGrow.